Ali, stand up please. And Ami Sibwai, congratulations for this. Congratulations. Well done, well done.
We had a dream to always have a school of our own, where we had never planned, and my husband's dream. But fate led us. One thing after another has led us to Matemwe.
In terms of requirement, what we are doing is a drop in the ocean.
What is your name?
My name is Modi.
Modi. What is his name?
I'll be honest, they're the ones who make my day. When I walk through the gates and they run to me and hold my hand.
I think I wanted to be away from everything that's normal in my life. I didn't want to volunteer for the day and then go home and spend hours on doing whatever I do.
I was fortunate enough to recite for one of the community centers in Zanzibar, Tanzania, known as the Nai Masjid. It was a thrilling and rewarding experience. The Khaja community came to Zanzibar in the early 1800s and gained from this land. They set up businesses, involved themselves in trade. Recently, they have been involved in giving back to the community, and one such project is called the Tamani Foundation in Matemwe, located northeast of Zanzibar. I was told that Asia and Muhammad Rafiq Somji were in charge of this school, and so I wanted to see firsthand the fantastic work that they were doing. I felt like Zanzibar was a really tranquil place. The people were so friendly and welcoming. I was impressed with the architecture, and the food was good too. Part of me was excited, while I was also nervous. I wasn't sure how the kids would react to me, especially since they come from less fortunate environments. I even wondered whether they would get along with me, or would feel like I'm from a different planet. The school is situated on the beach, along with 2 lavish villas purchased for paying guests. The hosts were kind enough to offer us a free stay. I loved the room. It was really comfortable and cozy, and I got ready to turn in for the night to get ready for a busy day ahead. In comparison to last night, the place was full of life in the morning. As soon as I got to the school, I was greeted warmly by the staff. The students were also full of energy and life.
Attention.
The school begins their day with an assembly. The kids looked like they were having so much fun, so I decided to join them. It brought back memories of when I was in school and I was astonished in Matemwe. After the assembly, the students went to class. First up, I went to visit the kindergarten classes. Tamani have 3 classes for kindergarten. The kids were learning how to identify letters of the alphabet. Every time the child got the answer right, the whole class would congratulate him or her. It was really motivating and made the children learn better. The classrooms were designed in a way to encourage learning and education. The atmosphere was also interactive. The teachers literally went out of their way to use different methods to engage their students. I could only assume that this was passed down by the management.
The teachers get teacher training, in-house teacher training in teaching methods from volunteers, from people we employ to come and teach them different styles of different methods of teaching the kids. So it was something that we thought was very important, because also in terms of disciplining, we didn't want to have corporal punishment, and having them being taught a different style of teaching the kids also takes some of that away. They don't have to beat the children into submission to listen, because the children are engaged, and that is what you get from different teaching methods. So it's also incorporated into an African way. It's not all Western, it's blended together. So for example, Western methods of teaching have a lot of singing, but also African tradition has a lot of singing. It may not be used as much in schools, but it's part of African culture to use singing for learning. So we adopt the songs into Swahili that the children can, and also just change them. For example, mathematics. We create mathematics songs for the kids. We create general knowledge songs about birds in Swahili for the children, instead of them just having to repeat after the teacher.
With the few minutes of break I was given, I decided to enjoy the beach in Matemwe. The atmosphere was relaxing, tranquil, the water so clear that you could see the sea floor. Something I'm definitely deprived of back in London. But after that, I went back to the school to visit another classroom. The kids were practicing their English reading skills. I sat with them and helped them sound out words. I noticed that the classroom had a lot of books that I used to read while growing up. I thought it was fascinating how these kids from this remote village would grow up with the same stories as I did. After the reading lesson, the teacher gathered the students around for a game. The teachers try to structure their lessons in such a way that there are moments of work and moments of play. This is a really effective way of maintaining their attention spans. I got involved in the game too. Each of us were assigned a number, and you had to say the words kitty kitty, followed by a number. The person whose number you called has to quickly call another number. If they don't, they're out of the game.
I'm sorry. I'm out.
After the game, we went back to their lessons. They were learning how to spell words. I helped the kids with this and was amazed at how quickly they picked up on the spelling. The teaching style, the books used, everything was extremely similar to what I was used to growing up in the UK.
The key thing that we have to remember is that these are children learning something that's alien to them. Currently, the main teaching medium is English, and their families speak no English. Most of the parents are illiterate of the children here. So in order to keep them engaged, keep them focused and make them want to learn, you have to change how you teach them and to give value to what they're learning. It's very easy, and with the older generations here, you can tell that they've learned things by rote chanting and repetition, but they don't really understand it. Whereas the kids that are learning through these different methods, role plays, games, songs, all these other things that we take for granted, is where you can see that it's making a difference and they understand what you're trying to teach them.
After the lesson, the kids get ready for lunch. Before they eat, they recite a prayer. The Tamani School provides a basic lunch for its students so that they are able to re-energize and be focused throughout the day. During their break, they're allowed to go outside and play together. After hearing the sounds of the children playing in the playground, I couldn't help but remember my own days as a young boy growing up in London. I met Sister Asia Somji, affectionately known as Mama Asia by the students.
Watching the children talk about the graveyard and everything, and they all say, Bismillah.
For the snake.
She is one of the founders of the school. She spoke to me about the school's initial stages of development and the resistance they faced from the village.
The resistance was the hardest. The infrastructure or anything else was something that we had anticipated and were all prepared to take up. But it was the social resistance that we could not imagine. Why would a village not want secular education? And previously when we had talked to them, they were like, oh yeah, bring it, we need it, that's what we Muslims need. I think they never anticipated that we would really come and live here also. And so us being around and then them coming here and resisting the secular education area and the modern techniques of teaching was the hardest. It was hard to imagine how they could just not want it. The children, we thought, oh, there will be so many people wanting to come to school. And we got a trickle, or hardly a trickle. And then we found out that they are scared to come in. So we made house calls, and we were like almost begging them, send us your children. We're ready to start the school now. On one hand, we were already interviewing teachers, and on one hand, we didn't have the students. And then we found out that it was the village malims who were trying to protect their power bases. And when we talked to the malims, they said, you can't be riding dunya and akhirah together. You'll fall off somewhere. I said, how can we stand in front of God? And this is education. So we went back and forth with them. In the end, 9 children just got admitted into the school, and they expelled these kids from madrasa. They just expelled these kids from madrasa. And that was very painful, because these kids were in the village, but they were an elite who were being bullied. Once they left our campus, they were being bullied outside, being beaten up sometimes, and that felt very hard. In the end, we did have to do something we didn't want to do. The parents said, start a madrasa for us, and we didn't want to go that way. Just because we knew if we did set up a madrasa, it would be very different from what they were teaching and the way we were being taught, and that would start another problem. So we did give them one of the classrooms, and they brought a teacher who would teach them here in the madrasa. 3 years later, the Malim brought his own son to start the school. And he told me, just send me back the children. And so we closed down the madrasa and the children have gone in. So that problem is now gone. But with the adult education program, he still brought some opposition last year when he just didn't want the adult students coming here. We're still working on how to find our footing there.
On the playground, I found a few kids playing on the swings. They were really enjoying themselves, and I decided to join them. I pushed the swing so it would go faster, and the kids loved it. The smiles on their faces goes to show that this school has had a positive impact on their lives. After having a little bit of fun with the kids, I then met up with Shabir Mohammed Rafiq Somji, the husband of Mama Asia, and the other founder of the Tamani School. I was amazed at how passionate he was about this cause.
Over the period of 3 years, the nutrition has really improved. Yeah. Nutrition and health as well.
How do you monitor that? Do you do regular checks, health checks?
Yeah, we do have medical checkups, we have dental checkups.
All right.
And generally even by monitoring them, observing them like Teacher Vivian said yesterday. It certainly has been a long journey. And I think my thought processes with regards to this project here at Tamani Foundation probably was born about 20 years ago. And I always had this dream that God grant me the sort of lifestyle so that I'm able to give back to society. And I think if you have that sort of niyyah, and then God guides you all along the way. I think that is what has happened to me. My passion has been in education, and so I thought the best way to give back to society would be through education. It could have been anything, but since I do love education, I thought best to take up that field. And in Tanzania, Muslims have been very much behind in education. And that is why we chose this place to start our project here in the village of Matemwe in Zanzibar.
Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Little children want to play. Rain, rain, go away. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. Little children want to play. Rain, rain, go away.
The idea initially came in, I think, through my extensive travels and through the political background of our country here in Tanzania and of our background of India. That is where we are originally from, and we have lived in Tanzania 150 years. Having lived in England and in States, I could feel the, if you can call the injustices that have led to the fact that a large part of the population, or large part of the world, if you can say, were marginalized due to historical circumstances. And I felt that injustice was being carried out. And this is where the idea developed that I should try and give back. And alhamdulillah, I'm now at a stage where all my children have been well settled, all educated, and all almost married. And this is when I thought that now is the time to take up. When I came back from States, my business was running well under my general manager. And I thought, do I want to go back into business? If he's running it, why should I bother getting into it? As it is, I wanted to have my, if you can call, adventures. And we agreed with the manager that since this is a good cause, you go. I'll handle the business. And he's handling the business to this date, and my salary keeps on coming in, so I have more time and energy to spend towards this project. And this is how it came about. And that's why we purchased this land. And I was getting impatient, and I wanted to start as soon as possible. And alhamdulillah, a donor came in and said, Mr. Somji, what seems to be the issue? Or what do you want to get done? I said, this is a project that we want to start a school for the villagers, free of charge. And we should have a finance, a business model that would sustain the school. And he told me, he asked me a few questions and said, how much do you need? And what is the time frame? And I gave him the figure and a time frame of 6 months. And he said, here's the cash. So I went back to my wife and told her, Mama Sia, we're moving back. We are moving to Zanzibar, back to our roots. And we have given her a time frame of 6 months to the donor. So we'll have to get it done. And so I set about on the building projects, and she set about on the educational part of it. And exactly 6 months later, and $2,000 plus what I had quoted, the project was on and the school started.
After lunch, the kids are still full of energy after playing in the playground. To cool them down before the lesson, the teacher plays a fun game with them. The object of the game is to say your name and then do a signature move which everyone has to then copy. It's fun and interactive for the whole class to enjoy.
My name is Tijasia. I want in alphabetical name. A.
The teacher gets the students seated for the lesson. I was really impressed by the teachers, especially since their first language is not English, but yet they are able to teach the language so effectively.
Walk around. Make a group of 2.
After the lesson, we got on our feet again. We had to create groups of 3 or 4.
Good. Okay.
Physical interactive learning allows the children to learn basic arithmetic skills while having some fun.
Make a group of 4.
The kids were seated once more for their computer lessons. Bringing technology into their learning from a young age will allow them to learn important skills. Since we were approaching the close to the end of the day, I wanted the kids to sing the song sung at the assembly earlier today because I had missed it.
Boogie, woogie, oogie, that's the way she's shaking here and there.
We got in a circle and started singing. The kids were full of smiles and laughter. During the last lesson of the day, the kids were taught about animals through songs and actions. This helps them remember the concepts learned. As I looked around the room, while these children are extremely happy and content, you can tell that they come from poor backgrounds. Some of them don't wear shoes, and their feet are filled with dust from the ground. It made me sad to see this, but that's the point of the school. They're here so that they can get a good education and further themselves as well as the village. I can see these kids going far in life.
One thing that feedback that I've gotten from a lot of volunteers is the feeling that they have left with when they went away. They came intending to give, and found that it was they who were given. So it's great, definitely giving. That is what we want you. You come and get involved with us, but you're going to leave here with a different understanding or sense of yourself, or understanding of yourself, understanding of the world, and see the world in a different way, which I think is important as human beings.
It's now the end of the day. The school day is divided into 2 sessions, the morning for the younger kids and the afternoon for the older. After the kids left for the day, I joined the adult computer class.
Look at here. What can you see?
I really wanted to experience what it was like to be a part of it, so I participated in the lesson. The students are taught basic Microsoft Excel skills, which would then help them find jobs in the ever-growing tourism industry in Zanzibar. I think it's really great that these classes are available because it sets them on the right track to help them grow and maybe aspire to study more.
What? There's a missing word, meaning.
The Tamani Foundation also holds English lessons for the adults.
So what are the differences between here in Matemwe and...
They have foundation and intermediate lessons. In the foundation class, the students are taught extremely basic English.
And drink blood.
Wow.
Again, I was really impressed by this long-term strategy of the school because teaching them English will help them in their lives. They will be able to get better opportunities. Salima Finigo Simba is one of the students aspiring to learn English. He spoke to me about his aspirations for the future.
Now I'm studying English because anywhere you go in the world, English is an international language. So anywhere you go, people speak English. And I'm studying this because I intend to study abroad. I intend to look for the scholarship. So where I'm going to, there are some people who speak Swahili. And also to help me because I want to be a team member.
Where did you start?
Shahida Jafar, a volunteer from the UK, teaches the students spoken English. I admired their efforts to learn the language. They were determined to get it right, but also had a lot of fun while learning.
You both went together. You went. Do you want to go? No? Okay, that's fine. See you up to Sunday. Instead of up to, it's one word and it's 2 letters. See you, something, Sunday. Over back. See you.
The class was very interactive. Shahida got the students to talk about hypothetical scenarios to help them practice their English.
Tamani means happiness, I think. Personally, for me, I feel like I'm happy here. The kids are happy. Everybody in this place, be them employees, be them students, be them teachers, everyone's just calm and happy. And that's not really normal for schools or workplaces. And you don't just feel that while school's going on, you feel like part of a family. And that's really the main essence of Tamani.
So I'm a driver. I need a chance so as to get a job to be a driver.
Secondly, here we have the chance of a driver.
I was worked at a company at Matemwe village tour.
Okay, so let's talk about... I think I wanted to be away from everything that's normal in my life. I didn't want to volunteer for the day and then go home and spend hours on doing whatever I would do, socializing, going to the gym, going out. I wanted something different. And this is probably as remote as you can get. I mean, I'm blessed and I'm so grateful that we have Wi-Fi. It'd be very difficult without it. But on the whole, life is completely different. And that gives me more time to reflect on the actual volunteering experience. Sometimes when you're so involved in your own life, volunteering just becomes a part, whereas at this point in time, volunteering is my life.
When the teacher teaching the students, if she or he will not ask the students questions, the student will sleep, I think. but they ask many questions during the class. Oh, they bring the topic, the students contribute the topic, and we discuss together. So it will bring the students to become brave.
I really think that this school is a blessing for the village. It has something to offer for everyone. It has sessions for the children, but also has facilities for the elders. The overwhelming feeling was of astonishment. I thought it was amazing how these people established this successful school in Matemwe. They managed to overcome resistance and win over the hearts and minds of the community. This school is a blessing for the village and has something to offer for everyone. I hope to see Tamani expand their classes and replicate itself across Zanzibar. This will encourage higher levels of education. One thing that I have benefited from living in the West is access to high levels of education, and it saddens me that many people are born into situations where they do not have access to good levels of education. I hope to come back in many years and see how Tamani's vision can be implemented all over the country.